Let's talk about the differences between the KSG 410 and the KSG 12 gauge.
Zombie apocalypse.
Now, side by side, they obviously are a little bit different, but I've had the KSG 12 gauge a little bit longer. That's why it's more decked out. We've got the V6 muzzle brake, which is amazing, by the way. You guys should all check out those videos for a lot of recoil reduction and muzzle rise elimination. Then up here, I've added iron sights for some co-witness with a green dot or red dot. I guess that's a red dot. And then my angled forend with this little stop here so that I can, keep my fingers in between there when I rack it back and forth, because it makes it a lot easier and faster, and also keeps my hand away from the muzzle because there are some pictures where somebody's blown their hand up. Other than that, let's take a look at the rest of the features here that are different. We'll start with, let's go with the back first, okay? Now you can see they both have the nice KelTec butt stocks on there. This one is a little bit beefier for the 12 gauge. The 410 is a little bit flat here. This is more contoured, but that's thinner, and that's probably only about an inch and a half wide or inch and a quarter. Let's take a look at these. They have the basic features here with the elevator and the feed ramp and everything, the magazine tubes and the switch and everything. So this is the 410 that we're looking at. Obviously everything is just pretty much on a smaller scale, whereas we look at the 12 gauge. Of course it's loaded. You always gotta be ready when you need to be ready, right? So it's got a bigger bolt obviously and bigger everything else. The switches, they look pretty much the same size, and yeah, they work pretty good. They both have these little magazine, or let's see, you pull this down here so you can empty a tube if you wanted to empty things out. Yeah, right there, you see that? They both have that, which makes it really easy when you want to empty your firearm, right? Now let's go to the grip. This is the 410 grip. This is the KSG 12 gauge, and I already did some silicon carbide on here to improve the grippiness, because I really love a very, very aggressive, like stronger than skateboard tape kind of grip there. But anyway, you can obviously tell that the KSG 12 gauge is a little bit wider here than here and thicker as well. But they both fit good in my hands. This smaller one kind of does too. It's just not as grippy, of course. Neither was that, but that's just the KelTec grip, and you can change that at a hold grip on it later. But yeah, that's the grip. The triggers look and feel the same when you're firing. Now up here on the KSG 12 gauge, you have this little bit of a heat guard or barrel shroud or barrel guard here so that you kind of stay away from that when it gets hot. On the KSG 410, you have this handle here. Now you can take this handle out if you don't like it, because it does mess up your accuracy if you're not accommodating that with your holdovers, because this is a fixed sight and it's not adjustable at all. So what you see is what you get. You're always going to be hitting lower than where you're aiming, but you can take that off and switch it to this Picatinny rail that you have on the KSG 12 gauge. You just have to buy another rail like that. Take this off, which is super easy. You have some screws there. Probably has a lip that goes in there. Take that off, and then just put the Picatinny rail on. However you guys like it. Right now, I'm probably going to keep it on there. I just got this, so it's new. I just want to see if I can get used to this handle. I do like the handle. It's nice and compact. We know this isn't going to break. It's always going to be, there for you and ready to go. You just have to keep in mind what your holdovers are. Now, this here that you rack the gun with, your forend, this is also a little bit different than the 410. Now, the 410 has, I would say, somewhat of improvements, but also lost some advantages here. So what you're missing now is this Picatinny rail, which I really liked on the 12 gauge, but maybe you don't need it anymore. I mean, I needed it there for, if some people want to put a pistol grip on there. I chose angled forend with this stop on here. That's perfect for putting attachments on that. But now with the 410, you have these little lips on the front and back. So that kind of helps you rack the slide and keeps your hand away from slipping up into the muzzle. So maybe now you kind of don't even need to put any attachments on the bottom. I hate pistol grips on shotguns. I think they look ridiculous, and yeah, who knows, they probably break off too because it's all plastic and you're putting a lot of torque on it. But anyway, I don't want to mention more about that. Probably upset a few people in the comments, but yeah, okay. Anyway, other than that, you've got the same things here with your magazine tube. These nuts on here that hold them in place, they just happen to be different sizes, right? The muzzle in here, actually, let's take a look at that. That is different than what came with the KSG. That one's going to be a lot easier to take off with a socket, it looks like. You don't need any special tools to do that like you do with the KSG when I had to put on this muzzle brake. And so that's a big improvement. I think that's going to make a lot of people happy because now you don't have to buy some stupid tool to take that off and put whatever else you wanted on it, okay? Good improvement there for the KSG 410. But other than that, let's see. I mean, you still have like an exposed barrel here a little bit with the KSG, but it is kind of covered up by a rail and your forend here, whereas on the 410 it is covered up in the back here, but it has a huge gap here where you could probably accidentally burn yourself. But I did do some shooting. It didn't get too hot and it wasn't a lot of shooting, but in any case it will eventually get hot, I'm assuming. This safety, I forgot to talk about that. The safety functions the same on both guns, which is nice. Good familiarity. So if you're familiar with the KSG 12 gauge, you're going to be quite familiar with the KSG 410. And I think, you know, it's just a complement of each other here on the whole package. You can get your 12 gauge and your 410. Have a lot of fun with it. If you got kids, you want to train them, or you got, you know, people that don't like 12 gauge recoil, this is going to be a really great option in 410. Actually, it doesn't recoil much at all, if at any. I have a video, you guys can check that out and see for yourselves. Okay, all right. Oh, back here they have a sling attachment here as well. For the 12 gauge is slightly different. Now on the 12 gauge you have this up here for your sling attachment as well in the front, but over here you don't have anything. So you're either going to maybe have to loop it into this M-lock or get an M-lock sling mount or something like that. And if you don't, and if you switch to a Picatinny rail, you're going to have to change something out. I think you can get a similar little sling adapter like this to put on the forend here. You're just going to have to buy that aftermarket. So that's kind of a bummer, but you know, some people don't use slings. I do on occasion, but not all the time. Okay, all right, so that's going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comment section if you guys have any more questions or want to see any more differences or similarities between the two. And yeah, I guess right here I forgot to even mention the magazine, or the way you can, you know, rack the gun without, you know, pulling the trigger. It works the same way, where you just put this down, pull that down. Same principle, ambidextrous, really great. By the way, this is also for 3-inch shells, 12 gauge 3-inch shells. Both of them are going to handle any load that you throw at it. Okay. All right. See you guys in the next video. We'll talk to you later.